What's going on, y'all? It's your boy GK, and right now I'm gonna tell you guys the story on how I hired my first cleaner while doing Airbnb. But first, in order for me to give you guys the story, I gotta give you guys a little bit of context, right? So why do I even need a cleaner in the first place? Because I was cleaning my units myself, and it was kind of mildly inconvenient, you know what I mean, having to drive like to and from. I stay about 30 minutes to 45 to an hour depending on the traffic away from these, units. So, but I was cleaning it myself, right? But what happened was, essentially I scaled my business too fast. So I got the one apartment, and once I got the first apartment and I saw, how we were able to get it started in like 24 hours, the high from that caused me to just go off the rails, and in doing that, I end up scaling past the point that I was able to maintain operations by myself. And I didn't realize that it was going to get to this because I had no prior experience, no mentorship, no anything. I just saw a podcast on YouTube. It motivated me to just, try it out. I spent my life savings. I took all the stuff out my room that I had. I put it in the Airbnb. I just did it, and it worked. And because I bet on myself, and it worked out, and I zeroed out all my accounts, took the risk, and it worked, the high from that caused me to just overly double down, which I thought was a good idea at the time, but didn't realize the operating expenses and all the things and logistics that would come with that. So I ended up bumping my head. But now, here we are in the middle of it. We have 4 Airbnbs, and now we realize that we can't handle all this. You know what I'm saying? We can't handle all this by ourselves, 3 of the units, like I said, were apartments, and they were in one location. And the house that I had is an hour away. And each booking with Airbnb has a 4-hour time window between the time the last guest checks out, and the next guest checks in. So if you're the cleaners, you have a 4-hour window usually to get these things done. So basically, my bad, we got the airplane coming through. But so essentially, you can imagine, right? Like, it's already gonna take like 3 hours maybe, if you're gonna clean all 3 of these apartments. And so how am I gonna go all the way over here now in time for the next guest if I have, new guests coming in all of these places? I was, just really hurting and stretching myself so thin and feeling like I was just running in a circle. And then it lowered the quality of the cleanliness for a while because I was just trying my best and things would look clean to me and the tenants would complain. It was quickly going downhill, right? So my first thing I tried to do was I tried to put a ad on Indeed. Everybody knows Indeed. I'm like, why not? But the problem that I had with Indeed was that when I tried to sign up, they told me I needed like these license. I needed like to show my license and things like that and stuff. So not my license, my LLC, like stuff like that, and I didn't have it at that time. I was just winging it. So I realized I couldn't get on Indeed, and so now we got the airplane pass, we got the train coming now. But I didn't have that, so I couldn't get on Indeed. So basically, I moved to the next best thing, which was Craigslist. So I put an ad on Craigslist and I advertised like, hey, I'm looking for a cleaner. And so at first, I just finished telling the story. So I put an ad on Craigslist saying I was looking for a cleaner, and once I posted the ad, leads started rolling in. Now, once these leads start rolling in, I started calling them and I started scheduling like these interviews, but the interviews was actual cleaning. So I would just schedule, hey, I got a cleaning on this time, you show up, let's see how you do, you know what I mean? And if you do a good job, we can go from there. Now, one of the very first people that I gave the interview to, she was like a older lady, like she was in her like 40s, like, or something like that. But you know, cool. Now, but she did seem it was something like, you know, it's Craigslist, so it's like you do have that like, you know, this Craigslist. It's a little skepticism. So when she came, it was like she kind of looked. I'm not like, I don't judge. I'm not judging. You know what I'm saying? But you know, I'm like, all right, she may. Now, I let her clean, and she did a good job. And I told her like, you did a good job. I want to continue this, but first, what we need to do is we need to do a background check. We need to do all the things. You know what I'm saying? So when I said that, she was like, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm probably not gonna pass a background check. And so mind you, we're talking about this as you know, the job is over, I paid her, and she asked me if I could drop her back off at the hotel that she was staying at. And I'm like, you know, I was already thinking like, okay, you're staying in a hotel, so, you know, I don't know if you have, like, you know, if you're gonna be able to, and I'm dropping you off, so I don't know if you're gonna be able to have reliable transportation from wherever you're at. And so when I told her about the you know, as I'm dropping off, when I told her about the background check and things like that, she was like, I'm not gonna lie, you know, I'm not gonna pass the background check, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna, she was just saying all the things that she's not gonna pass. And then that's that moment, it's like you have a moment where you like, imagine you driving and you like, who am I in the car with? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm starting to be like, okay, you know, let's hear it. I mean, like, you know, okay, like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Not trying to get in her business, but I'm just saying, like, okay, like, legitimately, like, we're gonna see it anyway if you decide to do the test, so, you know, or the background check. So, I mean, what's going on? And then she would, like, tell me, look, whatever it was. But long story short, that first one didn't work out. So, the second time I tried to do it, I decided to do it hourly. Let's see what would happen if we do hourly. I negotiated a price, I don't know, maybe like $20 an hour. And I asked this lady, she was younger. She was about like early 20s or something like that. And she said she would do the job. So when she came, she used the whole, for every minute, she used every minute of that 4-hour window to clean the apartment. And so I paid her, and I'm like, okay, that didn't work out either. I don't, you know what I'm saying, I don't want to get got like that, right? I want to move efficiently. So I decide, like, okay, I'm going to change it back to a, you know, a regular you know, one flat fee system. And so I called a third person, and the third person, they came, they had a car, they stayed not too far. She came with her own cleaning supplies, even though I had my own cleaning supplies. And you know, she washed the clothes. She even was taking the clothes, you know, to her house and washing them there. You know, she had a washing machine there. You know, and it's crazy, you know, it worked out, and I decided to go with her. Like, she seemed like a honest, you know, hard working, you know, she had kids, and she had, you know, a family. She stayed not too far. She had a car, and she was willing to wash the clothes and stuff. I'm like, you got it. You got the job, you know. And then after that, because this was for the house, right, I had to do this all over again for the 3 apartments. And so, but at least by this time I had a framework, right? So I was able to just duplicate the system. I had to choose a closer meeting place. At the time, I belonged to this group. They had a space that I could utilize as an office space, meeting space, things like that. So I decided to host those there. But I did the same thing, and I think I did it, you know, by the time I got to the apartments, I was so much in a rush. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was so much in a rush that I the first person I had the meeting with, it was this guy. He seemed like a cool guy, you know. I'm like, look, and he stayed not too far from, he stayed within walking distance because he didn't have a vehicle either, but he stayed close to the Airbnbs that were, you know, across town. And so I'm like, you know what, dude, you got it, let's do it. All right, let's, you know. And at first we had an hourly system, you know what I mean, but then we end up just turning it to one flat fee too, you know, because I like to experiment, you know what I mean. But we end up turning it to one flat fee with him, and it ended up working out. He stayed there, he washed the clothes and everything, and honestly, between those two cleaners, right, we had a good run. Like, everything was working smoothly. Now, in my personal life, I was still trying to get my things together, get my stuff, you know, personally. But as far as that particular run of the Airbnb system, it was simple. I would wake up, you know, or I would do, you know, see how much money I had in the account, you know what I mean? And mind you, whole time simultaneously, it's like I was doing so many other things wrong that would bring me here. But as far as specifically the cleaning system, and let's say allocating a budget to the cleaning system, only thing I had to do was just, they call me, they say, hey, I'm done. They send them, you know, they send me pictures of what they did, and I send them the money. You know what I mean? And it just felt good to not have to drive all the way out, drive back, fold the laundry. I hate folding laundry. Like, I don't know. All you people out there that like folding laundry, I don't know how your brain works. I hate folding laundry. That was the main thing that I was happy, and I'm grateful. I'm like, I'm gonna make sure I pay everybody fair. You know what I'm saying? So that everybody feels value, because I appreciate this, you know? And it was, yeah, it took a huge load off my back, especially knowing I had 4 units to manage, and I could still, at that time, I was doing moving jobs still. So I could simultaneously go drive the truck and go do moving jobs and make more money, you know? So that's how I ended up getting my first cleaner. I did make a bunch of mistakes along the way. You know, the system that worked for me might not work for you. You may be able to go with a hourly system. For me, it seemed best that I had to do a one flat fee so that they knew what they were getting and I knew what I was getting, so nobody was incentivized to take as little or as more time than it needed to. And yeah, it worked out. And what I also did was I had these storage cabinets, these little storage bins that locked on the premises of each unit, so, or each property. So one for one property, one for the other property. And what I would do is I would have two sets of linens on the property at all times. I had the one that was on the bed, and then I had the one in the storage bin that was ready for the cleaner to just come and, you know, swap it out. And so what I would have to do is, the system we had is, once the cleaner comes, she puts that new stuff in the on the bed, and she puts the old stuff back in the bin. I would come, you know, oh no, yeah, I would come and get the stuff and then take it home, wash it, bring it back, and make sure they had, you know, new stock. But then that was until they started doing it on their own and just replacing it in the bins themselves. And we was off to the races. You know, we had a good run. So that's how I got my first cleaner on Airbnb. If you want to hear more stuff like this, or if you want to see how I'm rebuilding from this kind of Airbnb collapse, you could always follow my channel, subscribe. If you like the story, please, you know, hit the like button. Costs no money, but it does help me out a lot. But that's all I really got for you guys today. So until the next video, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.